I'm going to talk a little here about the reasons that I choose to keep rabbits in cages and the reasons that I believe this is the best way for you to be raising your meat rabbits. And this isn't only my opinion, this is, I believe, to be by far the most accepted, most common way to raise meat rabbits for a variety of reasons. Number one amongst those reasons is the health and safety of your rabbits. You can see that mine are on a raised cage system, on stacked cages. Even though the ones on the floor are not very far off the ground, they're not in contact with the ground. They're not on dirt, in mud. They can't get rained on. They can't get flooded out, puddles, anything like that. Every single time that you get animals in a wet situation, it's a bad situation. The things that really kill and make animals ill are wetness. Cold is usually pretty tolerable for them, but not if they're wet, not if they're in extreme conditions. And, those combinations of conditions, wet, wind, rain, wet, heat, all of these breed parasites, diseases, pathogens, bacteria, and that's no good for your animals. No more than you would want to be living constantly in a wet environment, having to be on the ground, having those getting into your body. It's no good for your rabbits either. Predator protection. Now, whether this is wild or domestic, because I don't really know the numbers. I can't say that, but if I had to take a guess, I would say that probably domestic animals, pets, dogs, cats, are probably just as much of an issue, if not more of an issue, for domestic rabbits. Wire cages are very secure. I won't say that nothing's never going to get into them. It does happen. There are instances where not secured at night, it's a raccoon could pull a young rabbit kit through a wire. It might get to a foot, things like that. But, there are also ways to further protect your rabbitry and your rabbits from that happening. But a dog is not going to come in here, and you can see my dog is actually frequently visiting in the rabbitry. They're pretty used to him. I allow it because it's not very reasonable on our farm for him never to be in here, and I'd rather have them not scared away from him. But they're protected from him. He can't get to one of these rabbits. He is not getting one of these rabbits out of the cage. The only way that a rabbit is going to escape one of these cages is going to be my mistake. If a cage door isn't latched, if it's left open, if a little kid comes in here and is playing with the cute rabbits and doesn't shut the door. But that's on us, and we have to accept those responsibilities as rabbit keepers too. But by and large, number one, the biggest reason is protection from disease, from parasites, from things that cause disease. I really do not have to intervene in the health of my rabbits. I keep them well fed, well watered. We have very few issues. We've once in about 4 years had an issue of ear mites that was very easily corrected. Just a little mineral oil and tea tree oil, which is no big deal, no serious medication or antibiotic use. But I do believe, I don't foresee myself ever probably doing anything different with my setup in terms of cages versus not cages. Some of the other reasons are more practical reasons. For example, you really need to be able to handle your animals. They need to be accessible to you. I know exactly what every rabbit in this rabbitry, who the parents were, when they were born, when they were bred. I don't keep crazy records, but I do keep a calendar, and I make up a code for each litter. I personally don't tattoo. It's just I'm not showing. It's not a concern for me. But I do have a way to identify them based on their cage, their name. Like I said, the litter is usually the first letter of the doe's name and the number that she's had. So in other words, I have like Dahlia was one of my does, D1 was her first litter, D2 was her second litter, and on down the line. So, you know, all of these things. These rabbits, they get really used to me because I'm in their cage every day, feeding, water, give them a little pet. You know, I don't hold them every day, but they are friendly enough that they can be handled without any major injury to either me or the rabbits or kids that come in. You know, we do have some kids, nieces, nephews, young people who like to, of course, cuddle the rabbits, especially when there's smaller, younger ones here. All of that's doable in a cage setup, much less so in a setup like a colony or a tractor where you probably can't even reach in and touch a rabbit. You'll get lucky if you can touch them, and it's probably going to be half by accident because they weren't paying attention when your hand was in there. And, you know, all those other factors that we talked about before, the exposure to the ground, to the parasites that live in the ground. If you have rabbits on the ground where there's other animals, you have other parasites that are constantly moving in, being brought in. So those are the reasons. You can very easily create a nice setup with plenty of room and comfort measures, like the rest mats for your rabbits. I would not be shamed into thinking that this is a cruel way to keep your rabbits. In fact, I would argue against that if you're exposing your rabbits to predator potential, to illness and disease, to overuse of medication and antibiotics, well, that could be argued as an inhumane way to keep them as well. Now, that being said, I do respect everybody's right to choose their own system. And I understand the draw to some of those more natural systems like a colony setup, but it really comes with a lot of its own issues if you think it through. How do you keep those animals from digging out of there? How do you keep those animals from digging and hiding in warrens and burrows that they create in the ground? How do you ever know if you have a litter coming, where the litter came from, how long it's been in there, how old they are? I have good control and know exactly how old my grow outs are and when they're ready to harvest at a date that I want to harvest. So food for thought, those are my arguments. You're welcome to add your own comments and thoughts in the comment section on the article. We welcome that as long as the discussion is kept respectful. Thanks for listening.